Hi guys, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins, and today I'm going to show you how to change out a fine tuner on a stringed instrument. It's actually pretty easy. I'll show you how. Now for today's video, I'm just going to be replacing the E string fine tuner on a violin because that's a very common thing, and probably most of you guys watching this video probably have violins. Okay, so the first step is we're going to want to remove the string. So I'm just going to unwind the peg, right? And I'm going to keep tension on the string so I don't drop it. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this peg until the string comes out. Okay, and I would recommend at this time that you see how this string is just kind of curly cued here at the end. I would straighten this out a little bit because when you go to put the string back on, it's going to make it easier to put into the peg. So just straighten the string out a little bit. Also, if your string is old, now would be an excellent opportunity to replace the E string. And when you put the string back on, I would recommend watching a video that I did if you want a little bit of help. I did a video, I put a link down below on how to replace a violin string, and I give you some helpful hints and whatnot that'll help you not only do it properly and make it really easy, but also show you how to put it on the peg so the peg doesn't slip once you get the string on. Okay, so I've unwound the string from the peg, and now I'm just going to pull it out of the end of the fine tuner. It just should pop out. Okay, and then we'll just put that string aside. Okay, so the first step is that we're going to want to loosen the screw here on the fine tuner, and we just turn it counterclockwise, right? Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, that whole thing. So just keep on turning it, and then it'll just pop right out. And put that somewhere. Okay, the next step, step 3, is that we're going to remove the nut here that's attaching the fine tuner to the tailpiece, and it keeps it nice and tight. Now, a lot of times these are on finger tight, so if you're fairly strong fingers, you can loosen them and get it and remove the nut. But a lot of times they're put on there pretty tight, so you might have to use a pair of pliers. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So I just got a little pair of pliers here. And now you have to be careful when you do this, because if you don't turn it counterclockwise and you turn it the wrong direction, you turn it to tighten it, you could over tighten the nut and break your tailpiece. So you got to be really careful. So remember, counterclockwise, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So I'm just going to grab a hold of it with the pliers here. I'm just going to turn it just like a quarter turn or so. And once you turn it, then it's really easy to remove it with your fingers. Okay, so but I do recommend that you see how the fine tuner is kind of flopping around here. You'll want to hold that with one finger while you loosen the nut. Otherwise, it could scratch the top of your violin. Okay, so I'm just loosening this nut. Here it is, pretty simple. Okay, good. Now, this fine tuner should just drop right out of this hole. Now, some of your instruments, the clearance between the tailpiece and the top of the instrument may be pretty small, so you got to be careful not to scratch the top of your violin when you pull it loose. You may have to turn the fine tuner, a little bit, so you don't scratch the top of your instrument. But you just drop right out of that hole, and that's about it. Okay, so we've got the fine tuner out. Now we'll want to reinstall the fine tuner. So to reinstall the new fine tuner, you're basically just going to reverse all the steps that you previously did to remove the fine tuner. So I'm going to take the fine tuner and I'm going to stick it in the hole, and I'm going to turn it a little bit when I put it underneath so I don't scratch the top of my violin. All right, and now it's poking through. So the next step is we'll just put the nut on. Okay, so I got the nut and I'm going to turn it clockwise with my fingers, holding the fine tuner with my other hand so I don't scratch the top of the violin. Okay, so I'm getting it as finger tight as I can. Okay, so now here at Kennedy Violins, of course, we want to get these as tight as possible because we don't want them coming loose. We don't want the fine tuners coming loose in the future because it'll buzz and rattle and cause problems and won't sound good with your instrument. So we use a pair of pliers to very gently get that fine tuner as tight as possible. So if you feel confident with that, then just use a fine tuner and a pair of pliers and just tighten that nut a tiny bit to make sure that it doesn't come loose in the future. So it only takes about, an 1/8 of a turn, if that. You just grab a hold of the fine tuner with one hand and the pliers in the other and just go about 1/8 of a turn, and that's it. Remember, you don't want to over tighten that nut because you could break your tailpiece. Okay, so this fine tuner is nice and tight. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so the last step here, besides putting the string on, is I'm just going to put that screw in there. And I'm just going to turn it a couple turns so it doesn't fall out, right? Okay, so now we're going to put the string on. Okay, and as I mentioned before, I created a video previously on how to replace a string, so I go in more depth on how to replace a string properly and show you the right steps. But for now, I'm just going to stick it on quickly, and you can follow along. So the first thing you do is just stick the string here on the fine tuner, and then keeping tension on the string at all times so it doesn't pop out of that fine tuner, I'm going to take the end and I'm going to put it in the peg. And you want to make sure the string is against the side of the scroll box. You don't want the string to be underneath another string. Okay, so I've got it on the peg. So now I'm going to put the string over towards the peg that I'm turning to wind that string against the side of the scroll box. And I'm going to push the peg in. I'm going to turn it, but I'm going to push the peg in gently while I turn it. This is going to prevent this peg from unwinding once I get the string tight. Okay, then I'm going to guide the string onto the nut and onto the notch on the bridge. And I'm going to get the string tight, but just gently. So it's still kind of flopping around. So now I'm going to put that little plastic insert on the string that prevents the string from digging into the bridge. I'm going to put that on top of the bridge. Now, some violins won't have that little piece of plastic to prevent the string from digging into the bridge. Some bridges will have like a little leather insert on top of the notch, and that works just fine. It just kind of depends on what violin you have. Okay, so now that I've got that little plastic thing on there, now I can tune the E to pitch. Okay, now that I've tuned the E, I'm going to tighten this fine tuner a little bit so it doesn't buzz around. We don't want it too loose that it's moving around. So I tighten it so it's not vibrating or buzzing or anything like that. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So guys, I hope that I've offered some insight today on how to easily change out a fine tuner. If you have any other kind of questions or comments, just put them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that little alert bell so you guys get a notification when I create a new video. And don't forget, here at Kennedy Violins, we're all players and teachers. So if you have any questions anytime, just, feel free to contact us. We're always here to help. Thanks.